The last one of the classroom norms that I wanted to go over with was I can show empathy for myself by not engaging in negative self-talk. So I know that the technical definition of empathy doesn't really imply feelings you have towards yourself. Empathy is the idea of being able to feel what someone else feels. But I do think it's important when we're thinking about classroom norms to think about, well, how is the student holding themselves accountable? Because I think that has a lot more power than saying something like "don't be late to class." Whereas, like when I was doing respect, I would say one of the classroom norms would be I show respect for myself by coming to class on time. I show respect for myself by getting my work done. So I do want to stretch that idea of self with empathy, and I think it still works. If students think about taking a step out of themselves and looking back in with a critical eye and thinking, you know what, if I was really to be impartial about this and look at my own actions, look at my own behavior, is that really something I want to take part in? And this idea of negative self-talk, I think, definitely works there. Whenever I've talked about this in the past, I always bring up the fact that if you heard someone else saying those kind of things about a peer, you would want to step in and tell them to stop and not let them keep going. Like if you were sitting in class and somebody just walked up to somebody else and was like, "Oh my gosh, that's garbage," or "You're not good at this," or "You're not creative. You're horrible at art." Those kind of things, we would all be appalled. And yet we do that to ourselves all the time. And so I think it's something that I definitely want to bring up with the students. And as far as modeling it goes, I think that's the first step. Is having that conversation about taking the step outside of yourself. And the next would be I want to show them what I plan to do. And so I will first take the role of teacher and I'll say, okay, one of you go ahead and just for practice here for intents for the purposes of our class, go ahead and be down on yourself for a second. And so they'll say, "Oh, I suck at this." And then I'll come around as teacher and be like, "Hey, what are you talking about? We don't engage in negative self-talk like that." And then I always try to redirect him like, "What has you actually upset? What about it?" Because whenever I do that with students, if they're having a hard time with a project and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this sucks," or "I ruined it," or "This is horrible," and I come over and I say, "It's not horrible and you don't suck. What's wrong? What is the actual problem?" And then their first reaction is always to say all of it, the whole thing. And I say that's not true, because look, I this part of it, and I can always pick out things that I think are going well, and I can see like if you were to keep going with it in this direction, I think this could be interesting. You got a lot of good things going on here. What is it exactly about it that is not working for you? And I always tell them that negative self-talk just shuts down the creative process, right? You're just saying, I suck, I'm horrible, I'm bad, I can't do this, and therefore, why continue trying? Why continue working? You just give up, right? But if you can actually pinpoint what the issue is, um, instead of just blanket saying we're bad at this, then when we pinpoint issues, we can work on them and we can improve and we can change things or try something new. So once I do that and show them how I'm going to redirect them, then I'll have a couple of them practice it, right? I'll be the student and I'll be down on myself and go through it. And then I want to take that a step further and have them model doing it for each other because it's not something I've done in the past, but I would love to get to a point in the class where if a student engages in negative self-talk, one of their peers will step in and be like, "No, wait, hold on. What are you talking about? Don't get down on yourself like that. Don't beat yourself up. That's not a nice thing to say. What's going on?" And then hopefully they can help each other out with those kind of things. So those are my three examples. Like I said, I will try to work on all the ones that we end up identifying as like the 5 or 6 main um, classroom norms that we're going to work on for the year. But hopefully this has been helpful in seeing my process and my understanding of this. So I'll see you around.